I am Vinnie Tortorich, folks. Your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed, just like the woman on the other mic. I'm very excited to talk. I'm just super excited to talk to this woman today. She's got something coming up called the Metabolic Revolution, and I'm going to be part of it. So, folks, without any further ado, please welcome Jessica Apple. Yeah. She's a bad girl because she's out there disrupting. And when it comes to disrupting in the health field, I'm a big fan. That's not the only reason I played that song. That song was sung by Fiona Apple. We have a different Apple in here today, a real bad Apple. I'm talking about Jessica Apple. How are you doing, Jess?
Hi, I'm okay. How are you, Vinny?
I'm doing great. You know, everything reminds me of a song. And of course, that song came to mind because your last name is Apple, number one. But more so because you're a bad girl. You're disrupting. You are. It's hard to believe. I look at you. You look like this kind of sweet, meek, mild mommy. I'm not going to hurt anything. I'm not going to do anything wrong. Yet you're out there disrupting, and I love it.
Well, thanks. I mean, I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm just trying to help people get their health back. That's really all I want, is to help people get healthy. And we have gotten so far from that, that everything I've tried thus far has failed. So it's time for a revolution.
Yeah, and that's what it's called, the Metabolic Revolution. Now, you came to my, well, you were in my crosshairs because Nina Teichels wrote to me and said, hey, I need to introduce you to Jess Apple. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And she goes, we're doing a metabolic revolution. I was like, wait, what? So I figured this was just going to be another one of these show up at some convention center. There's going to be a lot of people selling keto products. That's not actually keto. And we're going to hear the same 5 people, including me, tell the same thing over again. I don't see why people even go. I get why they go, right? I get why they're still showing up, because they found health through eating low carb and eating this way. And you see the same people at the same conventions, and people are asking me, well, Vin, why don't you show up at these conventions anymore? And I said, because I'm preaching to the converted at a convention. Everyone there knows my rap. They know what I'm going to say better than I do. They know everything about my story. They've listened to 2,500 podcasts. Why would I show up at another convention when I can just walk into my basement, turn on a mic, and talk to hundreds of thousands of people versus the 500 or 600 people who might have shown up at another metabolic or low carb convention, right?
It's one of the great things about the conferences and the conventions is that you're part of a community and you get to be with people who live your lifestyle and eat like you, and you don't have to be that annoying person who's saying, hold the bun on my burger, I don't want any mayo and your seed oils. Like you're just with people who are doing the same thing as you, and it feels great. Like
it does. And I get that part of it. But after, you got to imagine, I was at the first ones of these, right? I remember early on, I saw Dave Feldman bring you up when you gave a speech at one of these things. And that's what Dave and I met. I had Dave in my first documentary, the first 2 documentaries. And, you see the same guys, and it's fun to go see Dave and to run into Sean Baker, who's been to my house, to run into Nina, who's been to the house. We know all of these people. I love Ken Berry, love seeing the guy, but why go waste a ticket? That's the other problem. It's like it costs money to go to these things,
Right.
right? You spend money on plane flights, hotels, and the whole deal. And I'm sitting there going, I don't see any new faces. I see the same faces. So I'll let them go and do these events. I don't think people need to see me again at these events. But then when Nina calls and says, we're going to DC, and there's this little tiny woman, Jess Apple, who's put on this whole deal. And it's like, Jess Apple, that's a new name. I've never heard of her before. And then I saw the video. It's like, oh, wait, Feldman is bringing her up on stage. Why don't I know who this woman is? Right?
I have been here for a very long time, Vinny. I've been working in this like low carb diabetes for 15 years. I was just doing it behind the scenes.
Well, that's what I want to get at. It's like you didn't really know who I was, and I've been in this thing for that long, and you didn't know who I was. I mean, you have a magazine.
I had.
You had a magazine. You started this because you had a mom who had problems, and I want to get into that. I learned so much about Jessica Apple, and I want to be in Jess Apple's world, right? As soon as I saw that, I wrote to you and Nina and said, hey, tell me where to show up,
Yeah, we're so grateful. But I'll tell you that the Metabolic Revolution is free. You were talking about the cost of going to conferences. I mean, anyone who's in driving distance of DC, which is millions and millions of people, this is a way that we can all gather free. And there's not going to be long scientific talks. There's no presentations. This is just going to be about calling for change. It's really activism. And so we are calling for very specific things. We want the guidelines to change. This is the 2025 guidelines are about to be ushered in, and we can't go another 5 years like this because we know the guidelines are contributing to chronic diseases, which they're more and more every year, and people are getting sicker at younger ages. And if we don't say something now, we're doomed.
Well, I feel like we have been saying something for a long time, right? But we get shut down. You and I were talking off camera, and I won't speak for you. I'll let you speak for yourself. But I'm shadow banned. Almost, I'm shadow banned on Meta. We know that for a fact, right? On Instagram, on Facebook, I'm shadow banned. They tried to take down. We have a low carb group, Vinnie Tortorich's NSN, low sugars and grains on Facebook. They tried to shut it down because they said we were using hate speech. So I asked Matt, I said, can you show me the hate speech? And if someone did something wrong, I will kick them out of the group. They wanted to kick us out for the term bacon fat. That was what their AI picked up. And they said, we're going to end this group. I had to go and petition Meta to let the group stand. We didn't call a pig fat. We didn't shame a pig. Someone used the term bacon fat, saying, I use my bacon fat to also roast my whatever. Right? So that's the world we live in. We know that I'm shadow banned. Here's how you know, right?
Well, let
me just say this. Over 100,000 people are going to hear you immediately on my podcast, on the audio version of it. Immediately over 100,000. Over time is going to grow to maybe double that for this episode. On YouTube, I'm going to put up the same content, and maybe 1,000 people will see it over time. How does that happen? How is it so many people want to hear this, yet they're not showing it, outside of that? So yeah, we're being hurt and shadow banned. Have you seen the same thing with your work?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe that there was censorship, big tech censorship. And the evidence I had of that was really during COVID, when I was publishing content that was not about, it had nothing to do with the vaccine. I never mentioned it. We weren't anti-vax. But we were talking about the fact that people in poor metabolic health were the ones who were suffering the most from COVID. And, I can't tell you exactly what happened, but I did see that my content, which had been ranking very high in Google pages, was disappearing. So can I prove there was censorship? No, but I did. I mean, our content went down from, hundreds of thousands a month to 150,000 a month. And it really got to a point where it really wasn't worth it to publish it because nobody was seeing the content. It was frustrating. And I feel like the metabolic revolution, though, is really kind of, you were saying we get censored, we get banned, this is a way for us all to come together. So it's not just one doctor talking about treating diabetes with keto and one doctor talking about cancer and keto. It's just all of us, from all the people who believe in metabolic health, who believe in healing by using metabolic strategies like diet, exercise, light, getting enough sleep, not drinking alcohol. Like, there's so many things that contribute to health. And if we all come together, like the people, then we aren't, you can't make us quiet. My feeling is that we don't have to sit quietly and tolerate bad advice. If we were all doing great, I'd be quiet, but we're not. I spent 12 years reporting on diabetes, and every year the number of people with diabetes was growing. At the same time, the American Diabetes Association is asking for more money because they need it to stop diabetes, but they're not stopping diabetes. So what are they doing with all the money? Diabetes is getting worse and children are being diagnosed with diabetes. And it's terrifying. If you're diagnosed with diabetes as a child, as a young adult, you're already facing high risk of complications.
Yeah, I noticed Robert Lustig is coming to the Metabolic Revolution, and he's been on the show, and I'm a big fan. I've never met the man in person, but reading his books, you really see how just dim and grim it really is. Right? He talks about kids being born obese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where kids, babies are supposed to be chubby and have fat on them because that's their body uses that to grow, right, to develop. But this is not what he's talking about. These kids are, the parents are metabolically broken, the mother's metabolically broken, the child comes out metabolically broken, and we have no way of fixing this. Well, we have a way, but no one is buying into how to fix it, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what happened to me. I had gestational diabetes in my first pregnancy. I didn't know anything about diabetes. I had read that gestational diabetes exists. This was a long time ago. There was almost nothing on the internet. And my doctor told me that I had borderline gestational diabetes, but she said, you're young and thin, so you're probably fine. This is really strange. I can't believe you tested with such high numbers. And she said, just don't eat cookies and cake. And so I said, okay, I won't eat cookies and cake. I didn't eat that much of it anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. And instead, like when I wanted something sweet, I ate fruit. I was eating grapes all the time. I drank orange juice in the morning, and I had no one told me to check my blood sugar. And my son was born big. For someone of my size, he was way too big, and I had a difficult delivery. And once I learned that I should have never been drinking juice or eating fruit or any carbs for that matter, I'm angry. No, I'm upset.
Yeah, doctors really don't tell you. And people think, they hear this podcast and they think that I hate doctors. And nothing can be further from the truth. I hate that doctors will choose to remain ignorant on certain things, right? I famously tell the story, and I won't tell the whole story here because people have heard it 1,000 times. But when I moved from California to Virginia, I had to get a new doctor, and she she told me I needed to be on a statin, and I was like, why? And she said, well, we took your cholesterol. By the way, my total cholesterol number, I'll say this, was not in the 200s.
Okay.
It was in the 100s. And my LDL and HDL was in perfect sync. And I simply asked her, I said, wait, hang on. You told me my triglycerides, I think they were 38 that day. They usually come in between 35 and 40, right? I said, my triglycerides were really good. She goes, yeah, that's really good. And I said, did you check the ratio between my triglycerides, my LDLs, my HDLs? And where was my ApoA and ApoB? And she goes, are you a doctor? We're having this phone conversation because she called me with my results. I said, no, I'm just a guy who wants to know how you determined I should be on a drug. And she goes, well, anytime your cholesterol is in the 190s, we just suggest that you go on a statin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I won't get into what happened after that, but she was fired immediately. But yeah, it makes me wonder how many people like you go to see a doctor and the doctor says, oh, you have gestational diabetes. Don't eat cake. Right? You didn't learn. Yeah, I'm sure you didn't know that, at the time, orange juice was nothing but a glass full of sugar.
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought it was good for me and rich in vitamin C and natural and no sugar added. So, of course, it's a much different time now. My son, my oldest son, is almost 24. So the internet was in its infancy still. So I couldn't just go online and look things up. But yeah, there's still, the fact that people diagnosed with diabetes are still told to eat carbohydrates, and go to the American Diabetes Association website and you get high carb recipes. And when you eat those recipes, your diabetes is worse and you need more medications and you are on the path to complications. So Dr. Ken Berry has now launched the American Diabetes Society, and I'm so excited about that because we do need a leading organization to guide people and to guide them towards health, not towards disease and medication.
Yeah. And, Ken Berry's another guy that's out there, who's had his problems, right? I'm a big Ken Berry fan. Again, early on, he was on this podcast in the early days of Ken Berry just starting out. And, weird things happened around Ken. I won't get into it, but some weird things happened around him. Makes you wonder, right? He would never say anything, but I'll say it. All of a sudden, one day, mysteriously, your practice burns down. Does that sound? When was the last time you heard of a doctor's office?
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, that's a fact. And then mysteriously, his house burned to the ground. You know about that?
No.
Ken doesn't talk about it, but it happened, right? So weird things happen. And it makes you wonder who's out there making these weird things happen.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't comment. I don't.
I know. I'm not asking you to comment. I'm just saying this for the audience. We're out there trying to do things, and it makes me wonder who's out there trying to stop us, because no one is willing to listen. We have this great information. It's changing people's lives, yet there are groups of people out there, large groups with lots of money. Nina and I have had these conversations privately because we happen to know a little more than what we're able to let on. But there are forces out there trying to stop us, trying to stop this. It makes me wonder if anyone's going to try to stop us in Washington.
Well,
right?
I certainly hope not. And I certainly hope that, there is no reason that thousands and tens of thousands and millions of people shouldn't come, because every single person is affected by the dietary guidelines. And even people who, have an interest in selling a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, or doctors who have an interest in having more patients with more problems, their families are not safe from the food system. It's not that they're guaranteed health. And so I think it's something that, rather than, build hostility, that we should all work together towards the greater good of health for everybody. And, there's no reason why we have to be against the doctors or against the pharmaceutical companies. They are supposed to be helping the people, and we are the people. And that's what we're coming to say, is that there's an emergency. This is a cry for help. Like, you guys are doing the wrong thing, and what we're doing isn't working. And we know that because everyone is sick, and obesity rates have never been higher, and children are sicker than ever. And if we don't do something now, I really, I don't know what the future is. I don't think it's good.
Well, we're looking at the future. I mean, right now, birth rates are way down. Testosterone in men.
Right.
Men are basically turning into women. I'm not saying that I'm not trying to be derogatory here. These are facts. Guys aren't, for lack of any other term, guys aren't getting laid anymore, right? They'd rather just stay in their mom's basement and call themselves incels and do nothing, right? We know that the testosterone rate is going down. We know that morbid obesity is going up. We see it happening, and it's a boulder rolling downhill, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. And it makes me wonder if we're not too late. I know it makes me sound like a pessimist, but people always say to me, "Come on, Vin, you're healthy, you're lean. You can look at Jessica Apple; she's healthy, she's lean. Why would we care? What's in it for us, right? Would it be better if a really morbidly obese person was doing?" Yes, I wish we can get someone like a Lizzo or any of these people who are celebrities who are morbidly obese to go, "Hey, listen, I'm not healthy. I need to get healthy." I think more people would follow if we could get more of those people in the house. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think also just if we start to promote metabolic strategies, that, we have to move from the way I grew up was that if anything that was not coming from conventional medicine was considered, like chicken soup, grandma's recipes, old-fashioned wisdom that's not scientific, and that the way that we have to treat illness is with pharmaceutical interventions. But it turns out that, most of these chronic conditions that we have are based on our mitochondria misfunctioning. And the way to heal mitochondria is through metabolic strategies. And that means that, yes, you do have to eat food that's biologically appropriate. You do have to be out in the sun. You do have to move your body. We're in artificial light all the time. I didn't know how much light affects our health. I met Stephen Hussey, who wrote a wonderful book called Understanding the Heart. And I met him at a conference. He has type 1 diabetes. He survived a heart attack at 34, massive heart attack. And he healed himself using light therapy. He taught me about wearing blue light blocking glasses after sunset, infrared sauna. Like, there are all of these things that we can do to heal, and they shouldn't be a secret. And the fact that the carnivore diet works so wonderfully for autoimmune diseases and weight loss, and so, and mental health, it's just so phenomenal. And it doesn't have to be for everyone. No one's going to force you to do a carnivore diet if you don't want to. But you should know that it's an option. So I was a vegetarian for most of my life, and I wish I hadn't been, because it's very hard for me to overcome it because I don't want to eat animals and I'm never going to want to do that. But I learned that I was sick because I was missing the nutrients that I needed. Um,
Quick sidebar: is Stephen going to be at the convention?
I don't know. We should ask him. Stephen, if you're listening, come.
I can call him and find out, because he always, no matter where we are together, he always gives me the best neck crack, because I have neck problems, and Stephen's a great chiropractor. And it's funny, I could go to a chiropractor that does x-rays and everything. They don't do what Stephen can do at, hey, just sit in that chair. I feel better for 2 days after
Wow.
Stephen. Love that guy. Another guy that's been on the show a couple of times, well respected. You mentioned vegetarianism. When I first started, and boy, was I naive. When I first started this 12 years ago, I wanted to bring vegans in also. I wanted to include everyone. Didn't matter who you were, I wanted you to be included. So we even had, just like my Vinnie Tortorich's No Sugars, No Grains on Facebook, we had Vinnie Tortorich's No Sugars, No Grains vegan group on Facebook. And it had thousands of people in it. But the vegans decided to attack me and anyone like me. So my own group started to attack me. They actually broke away. And at some point I said, look, you guys go do your own thing. We just have to take my name off of it. If you guys are going to be attacking me in my group, you need to at least take my name off. So they did. But I was naive enough to think that we could bring vegans in to have a conversation, right? And you can ask my co-host, Anna Vocino, you can ask everyone. They kept saying to me, why are you trying to reason with these people anymore? And I said, because I'm interested in everyone being healthy. I was never trying to tell vegans to eat meat, ever.
Right.
What I was trying to do is say, listen, if you're going to do this crazy thing, without calling it a crazy thing, if you're going to do this eating disorder diet, at least cut out the seed oils, at least cut out the heavy grains. You say you want to be a vegan, the word vegetable is right in there, VE, vegetables, vegan, vegetable. Eat vegetables, but no, that's not what you want to do. You want to eat grains, you want to eat cake, you want to eat all the crap.
Yeah.
Fine, but you're not going to be healthy, right? And I even tried to get them to go vegetarian and eat eggs and, maybe pescatarian. I tried everything to get a vegan to eat something with some sort of animal protein, at least the milk from an animal, cheese, butter. They wouldn't do it. So it's like, well, I've tried.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that because I was much the same. There was no way that I meat until I really, it was really the carnivore movement that, the early days of it, when I saw how much people were healing. And then, I had been on a keto diet, a vegetarian keto diet, for like a decade. And it was great for my blood sugar. It worked perfectly for managing, I have autoimmune diabetes, worked perfectly for that. But I never felt any mental health benefits. And I had heard Dr. Chris Palmer talking about keto and putting schizophrenia into remission. And I had read a lot about essential fats. And, I understood cognitively that the brain really does need animal fat, but I didn't want to eat it. So, it took me a long time to overcome that. And it was also witnessing my husband's healing when he went on a carnivore diet. It was so spectacular. I mean, he put so many symptoms into remission. He still has type 1 diabetes, but he had all the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis all disappeared. All kinds of symptoms of IBS, Crohn's, all disappeared. His energy levels were phenomenal. So when I saw that, it really it moved me to want to start to eat meat. And I did start just with eating animal fat. I just started using beef tallow for my veggies because it didn't look like meat, just looked like coconut oil. Veggies taste great when they're cooked in it. And that's how I transitioned. And what I felt a couple weeks into eating beef tallow was a total transformation. I just, one day I said to my friend, Dr. Mariella Gland, who's an endocrinologist, and I said to her, I think this might be what happy feels like. My brain changed. This terrible anxiety that I always lived with just quieted down. And I was able, it's not that it ever stopped me from functioning, but I was suffering while I was functioning. And that just it just got quiet.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned beef tallow. I just brought in this morning I just ordered 8 pounds of beef tallow, just showed up at my doorstep. And people are going, where do I find beef tallow? Do I have to rent it? It's like, no. It's actually very inexpensive, right? And by the way, folks, go shopping around on Amazon. You don't have to buy expensive beef tallow. All beef tallow is pretty much the same. Just make sure that it's 100% beef tallow and people ask me about lard. And it's like, yeah, lard is great too. Again, make sure it's 100% lard because some of these companies, you'll go, oh, that's cheaper. And you'll see that they've actually added other oils in with the lard. So be careful. Jessica, I want to get into what your diet was when you were low carb and vegetarian. But before we do that, I have to do a little ad here. Folks, Villa Capelli olive oil. We're sitting here talking about eating fat. Getting good olive oil is a great way to get extra good quality fat into your body. Villa Capelli has been a long-running sponsor of this show. As you heard me say before, in the United States, and this is what we're talking about with Jess Apple, you can cut olive oil up to 40% and still call it 100% pure olive oil. Not with Villa Capelli. Now, is Villa Capelli the only brand doing this? Absolutely not. But I don't have time to go vet every brand and tell you guys what they are. The UC Davis, oil study used to come out every 4 or 5 years. They quit doing that because it's so hard to keep track of this stuff. My promise to you is that Villa Capelli is 100% pure olive oil that came off the trees in Puglia, Italy, and is shipped right to you. So if you want to save 10%, put in promo code Vinnie, V-I-N-N-I-E. You'll save 10% every time. Promo code Vinnie, V-I-N-N-I-E. If you spend more than $125 after the discount, you will also get free shipping. So go get a bunch of olive oil, get free shipping, and get 10% off with my name. We're talking to the woman who put together the Metabolic Revolution, Jessica Apple. Jess, you said you were vegan. I'm intrigued by this, and you were low carb. So what did you do? How did you get there? Where were you? It seems not vegan. You said vegetarian. I'm sorry. I didn't want to put words in your mouth.
I wanted to be vegan. I tried, and I was always starving. I didn't get full. So my vegetarian diet was very heavy on cheese because that was both. I like it. It's plenty of high fat cheese, quick. Don't have to cook to eat it. So I ate a lot of cheese. I was eating for fats. I was using a lot of olive oil and vegetables, tahini. Any kind of fatty plant food that I could find, avocados. And occasionally I eat eggs. Like I didn't really want to. I was always trying not to do anything with animals in my diet. And then I end up eating something because I was hungry. I eat fish once in a while. When I was pregnant, I did eat chicken. Like I knew that I needed more protein when I was pregnant. I wish I'd eaten beef, but I didn't. It's something if I could do it over, I would definitely have changed what I ate when I was pregnant.
Yeah, you reminded me of a story. I'm very close friends with one of the biggest vegan advocates in the world, a guy named Rich Roll. We used to train together when I lived in LA,
Mm-hmm.
and Rich wanted to it was some kind of crazy event he made up for himself, which is kind of cool. He did 5 full-length triathlons in
Wow.
5 days on 5 different Hawaiian islands. How he came up with this, I'll never know. But Rich wanted to go off and do this. And, the logistics were crazy because he would finish a triathlon. He would have to get on a plane and fly to the next island, get all of the stuff, wake up the next morning and do it again. And I think he wrote about this in his book because I said to him when he got home, we were sitting down having a coffee and he was explaining to me how ridiculously tough and how he almost didn't make it and all this kind of stuff. And I said, Rich, you're a vegan. How did you do it? And he said, it'll be a long time before I eat another avocado or drink more olive oil, because he was literally living, he couldn't get enough fat in the system. He couldn't just sit there and munch on, a leaf or a broccoli sprig or whatever. He had to have fat in the system to do this crazy event over 5 days. And it was just, at the end, it was just, I was eating olive oil, drinking olive oil, just eating avocados as much as I could. It's crazy when you think that you've limited yourself to that. Now, you could say the same thing about carnivores. They're limiting themselves to one food, right? And that's why when people ask me about the carnivore diet, I'll go, look, it works like a charm. The problem is people get mouth fatigue, right? They get tired of just eating the one thing. That's why I've always used my NSNG approach. Just eat high fats, cut out sugars and grains. You reminded me of someone who I've had on the show a couple of times. Are you familiar with a woman named Lear Keith?
No.
Lear Keith became a staunch vegan with her little girlfriend. They were both like 13 or 14. Her girlfriend became a vegan. Lear decided to become a vegan. And by the time they were 19, her friend stopped being vegan because she realized it was ridiculous. And Lear just kept going on and on and on. And the sicker she got throughout her 20s and 30s, the harder she went vegan, right? She figured, oh, I'm just not vegan enough. So she went deeper vegan, if that can even be a thing. And then she started having, dental problems, hair falling out. She could never get pregnant, problems with menstrual cycle, you name it. She had every problem. The woman led a life of just being sick.
Yeah.
And she was so crazy about being vegan. She didn't even want to buy food from a store anymore. She planted her own food, which made her learn that every time you crack ground, you're actually killing something. She was like you. She didn't want to harm an animal, but she realized in order to make anything work, you had to kill something, right? So one day, the realization came to her in 2 phases. One day, she's in a grocery store because her lettuce had been eaten by deer and everything else. So she had to go buy some lettuce. And she's sitting there looking at the lettuce in her hand in a grocery store. And all of a sudden it occurred to her how many things had to die for her to be holding this thing of lettuce. She finally realized that she'd been living a lie for I want to say she was a vegan for 40 years, maybe 35 years. And she realized just staring at that lettuce that she wasn't saving anything, that it came at a cost. Something had to die for her to eat that. And she went over to the meat department and got meat, came home and ate one piece of meat. Now, these are her words, not mine. And I want to hear your experience. She thought that there would have to be some re-entry into eating meat, right? Like you would have to be reintroduced. Your stomach is going to knot up and you're going to fall apart and the whole thing. She said she took a bite of meat and she swallowed it and it felt good. to eat it. And
Nice.
it tasted good. And she had another piece and she felt better that day, right? One piece of meat. And all of a sudden she felt better. All of her stuff didn't go away. Her teeth didn't heal overnight. Her hair didn't start growing. She didn't have a menstrual cycle right away, but she felt better, which made her go out the next day and do what? Buy another piece of meat, right? It's, I want to, and the girl that used to do my Wednesday show, Gina Grad, same thing. She didn't eat meat for years and she was scared to eat meat. Now she eats a steak every day. She was like, I had no idea. My body, I went for 15 years without eating meat. She went back to eating meat and healed immediately. What's your story?
Yeah, I mean, mine is very similar. I stopped eating meat when I was 10 years old because I didn't want to hurt animals, and I stuck with that. Except for my pregnancies, where I was eating chicken, and maybe part of the time I was nursing. But no, I didn't want to eat meat. As a kid, I was sick. I had chronic migraines from the age of 11, shortly after I stopped eating meat. I would get violently ill all through my teens. When I changed my diet, I stopped getting migraines when I went low carb, basically before the meat. Um, and no, I still don't think it's easy to eat meat. I treat it as my nutrition, which is my medicine. That's what I need to take care of myself, and it's something that I work on. Like it took me. I really had to work on myself. I had a period where I'd get up in the morning and I'd give myself a pep talk and say, you're at the top of the food chain and you have to eat these things. This is your biological need. You just have to own this and do it. And because I mean, it's not that I just believed it as an opinion. I had sat and spent years reading studies and learning about health and nutrition, metabolic health. And I rationally knew that I needed this food to heal and to be healthy and strong. And since I've been eating meat, I have gotten stronger. I can lift more weights. I can run. Like, I never used to be able to run. I was always battling anemia and I'd be exhausted after a couple minutes. And now I enjoy running. So that in itself has been such a gift, to be able to run and just feel the strength in my body.
Yeah, your story is not dissimilar from Lear or Gina Grad or any of them, because it's real,
Yeah.
right? What you're doing is real. So I'm happy for you. I'm glad that you found that, because most people never get to it.
Yeah. The
There's
mental benefits are phenomenal also. I mean, that's something that we don't talk about enough, but for at least, a certain number of people, a certain amount of people, they really dramatically change their mental health when they add meat to their diet. Depression often goes away. Anxiety gets better.
Yeah, Georgia Eid is, one of the first people that started talking about. Is Georgia going to be at this thing?
Yes, she is, and I'm so excited.
I can't wait. I think my wife is going to come with me to this.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
and she and Georgia get along really well, so I'm glad Georgia's going to be there.
Yes.
And before we end the show, I want you to, if you don't mind, giving the lineup of people that are going to be there, but we're not there yet. Would you mind going into your mom? And, because you started with your mom having autoimmune disease when you were a baby, right? So you grew up with this.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
tell that story?
Yeah, my mother was diagnosed with MS when I was 5, and my brother was 2. And if you haven't interviewed my brother, I'm going to plug him. He wrote a book called Ravenous about cancer as a metabolic disease, Sam Apple, and it's a fantastic book. So, Sam and I grew up in this environment where we were surrounded by sickness. My mother just deteriorated. She never had remission. Nothing, no treatment helped her. I spent a lot of my childhood playing on the floor in hospital rooms because that's where she always was. At home, she slowly declined. She lost the ability to do anything. Literally, she couldn't do anything, and it affected her mind. I could not tell you to what she knew or didn't know. She couldn't communicate. So, she was like that for 11 years. So basically, my whole childhood. And no one could ever answer the question of why she was sick. I was told, well, she has an autoimmune disease, and that means the body is attacking itself. And even as a kid, I would question, like, but what does that mean that the body's attacking itself? We are designed to survive. If bodies attack themselves, then we wouldn't have evolved as a species. So what is causing this? It can't just be, something that happens. There has to be a reason for it. And I was always looking for that reason. And part of the reason that I was digging through so much scientific literature, just trying to figure things out. And, one of the first clues was learning about insulin resistance, and then just starting a process of thinking about how we're affected, how all hormones are connected, and how insulin resistance is present in so many autoimmune diseases. So then I'd say, well, is the insulin resistance causing it? Or when you have an autoimmune disease, do you then become insulin resistant? Trying to figure it all out. And I think ultimately, at the bottom line, it's that our bodies really don't need sugar and grains, and they do need fat. And the more we've taken away the fat from our diets, thanks to the dietary guidelines, the sicker we've become.
And there's no one, we saw this new graph that was put out by, I can't remember which university, maybe Tufts University or one of them. They have a new guideline that's coming up, and it's even crazier than.
Yeah, those are the guys who need to eat cereal all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. They put eggs way below cereal. It's, it's crazy to think that your mom went through that and died young, right? She didn't live very long.
She died at 39.
Do you feel like that had any impact on you and the way you were eating? And did you ever think that your vegetarianism was the right way to go because your mom, did you ever put food together with, this is why I'm getting sick now, my mom was sick? Any clues to that?
Not so much. I mean, I had always been told that she was very athletic. And so, I was never kind of convinced that exercise had any great benefits because she was doing that all the time and she got totally sick. So, now I think differently. Now I understand the importance of movement and lifting weights. But no, I did not really think about diet until I was diagnosed with diabetes, which happened during my third pregnancy. I'd had gestational diabetes in my first and my second, and then in my third pregnancy, I already knew a lot about diabetes. And I said, something is not right here. Like, I don't fit the profile for gestational diabetes in any way. And so I asked to be tested for type 1. I mean, I had to ask. and I was diagnosed based on autoantibodies and low C-peptide, which suggested I wasn't producing enough insulin. And so, I got that kind of standard treatment where I was sent to a dietitian who told me to eat carbs. And I was like, well, I better do what she says. So I ate what she told me to eat. And then my blood sugar was always high. And so I went back and I was really upset, especially because I was pregnant and I was trying so hard to do everything right. So I'd get, teary and go in and say, like, you're telling me to eat bran flakes and my blood sugar's going up to 180 when I do that. But if I eat eggs, then my blood sugar's normal. Like, I was checking. And she told me, well, that's why you take insulin, to bring your blood sugar down. And I was like, but doesn't it make more sense to just not spike your sugar in the first place? And the answer was always like, no, you need the grains, you need the fiber. And so that's when I really started digging into things. And understanding that it's just simply not true. Like, our brains function better without sugar and grains, and our bodies are stronger without them. And nobody has to be fanatical about it if they're not healthy. If they are healthy, it's not like eating grains here and there is so awful. But if you do have a metabolic disease and you want to treat it, in the using metabolic therapies, which I think is the wisest way to do it, then you often need to be very strict with yourself.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. It's like you can either be sick or you can be strict. Ooh, I'm going to use that. It's an
Yeah,
alliteration. That I might use that. I might use that when I'm behind the podium up in Washington. Let me write that down. Hang on.
do it.
Be strict. You can be sick.
Yeah, you're either disciplined or you regret it. So
Like one of those Baptist preachers.
yeah.
Or you can be sick. Jessica, thanks. I just came up with my new tagline.
Yeah, when you come to the rally, I want you to be a really strong speaker. I know you've got it. Like, we're gonna shout out to the crowd. Like, this is
Yes. What did you say? We each get like 5 minutes.
yeah. We're gonna have to start earlier because so many people have been asking to come, and I got to a point where I had to start saying no. Like, I didn't want to say no to anybody.
No, we're gonna. And Nina called me the other day, and she goes, maybe I should tell you this off the air, but I don't do anything off the air. So here it goes. She goes, yeah, I think Jessica wants me to kind of MC the event. And I don't really, I got to go up and do, because she knows you've never seen me on stage, but I do a real rah-rah thing.
Okay.
I'm not boring on stage. And she goes, I wish I could do the funny stuff like you and then make it mean something. And I said, well, look, Nina, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stand next to you off stage in between every speaker. I'm going to pick up something the speaker before said, and I'm going to put those words in your ear. And then you just go up and go, yeah, that lustig is something else. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no grains. All right, great. Now we're going to bring it. I said, I'll just tell you what to do. And you just have to go up and say it. And she goes, please do that. And then she stopped for a second and she goes, would you mind going up in between some? And I said, yeah, I'll bring a few people up. So if you guys want me to, I don't want to ruin your event, but if you want me to bring a few other people up.
Everyone's welcome. This is not a strict event. It's not a fancy conference. It is not something you dress up for. This is like, we're coming to fight for our right to health.
Oh yeah, I'm bringing my A game to this because I've always wanted to talk on Capitol Hill. So this is as close as I'm going to probably ever get. Somebody was trying to get me and Nina and a couple of other people to go before Congress. It's like, you think Congress is going to ever have me? Think about that. Come on, that's never going to happen. Speaking of which, I want to hear, do you have the list of people that are going to be speaking that day?
I'm going to open it up so I don't miss anybody. And I will tell you that the reason we're doing the conference now, in October 13th, this evolved in a very grassroots way. I was part of a group of volunteers for Dr. Chris Palmer and his brain energy group. And we were trying to start a grassroots movement, and we kept kind of hitting walls, and things just for various reasons weren't taking off. And so I spent a lot of time trying to, talking to people, figuring out how we can do this. And then one day I saw an ad for a conference in Washington, D.C. called IMMH, October 10th to 13th. It's the Integrative Medicine and Mental Health Conference. And I saw that Robert Lustig is going to be there, and Chris Palmer and Georgia Ede. And I was like, oh my God, this is taking place in Washington, D.C. All these people are going to be there. I want to go protest in Washington, D.C. I want to rally. Let me just ask them if they'll join me. And sure enough, they said yes. So that's how it came to be. And I went to Nina. I was in New York, and I asked her to meet. We had met in person at a conference, but we never sat and chatted. And I told her what I want to do, and she said, I'm in. Um, so now we have this conference, which includes Dr. Lustig and Nina, Dr. Mariella Glant, Dr. Tony Hampton, you, Dr. Georgia Eid, Dr. Eric Westman, Dr. Chris Palmer, Dr. Mark Cucuzella, and Dr. Matt Bernstein, Dr. Tro, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Kalasian.
Okay, Kalasian. And Ajala FM, who is, Nina wrote an article about Ajala. It was published in Medscape like a month or two ago. And Ajala comes from a really disadvantaged background in the Bronx. And Mariella has been treating her, Mariella, who's speaking at the conference. And
Nina is bringing her along.
Yeah. So she's
yeah.
Nina says her story is phenomenal, and she's written a great speech, and her doctor's going to be there. And this is a real story of someone who healed with keto, no sugar, no grains, as you say. And she turned her life around and she got her health back. And there's no reason we should keep this a secret from people.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, listening to that list, all but maybe 3 people have been on this show.
Okay.
I've never had Chris Palmer on, and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe we tried to get him, but he was busy that week, and he's always busy. I would love to get Chris on the show. He's one of the few people that's never been. I mean, we've had everyone. William Davis. Perlmutter. You name it. 2,500 shows, you get a lot of people on, right? Which makes me wonder how Chris Palmer has never been on this show.
You can reach out. I mean, when I found out his book was coming out, it was so important to me because his message, that mental disorders all share a common root cause of metabolic dysfunction.
Well, I won't have to reach out. I'm going to see him in about 15 days.
Right. So invite him. So I met him because I just sent him my CV a couple of years ago, and I said, I want to volunteer to help you because I want your book to be a bestseller. So if this is what I can do, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. And he said, yes, you can help. And a bunch of other people did the same thing. And so I made both really close friends and was able to contribute to Chris's work and mission. And now the Metabolic Revolution has grown out of that. A friend of mine, Hannah Warren, who was part of the Brain Energy team, she went on to work at Metabolic Mind, which is, such a fabulous organization. So it's Chris should be on the show if he has time.
Yeah, I'm going to have to badger him to come on. I can't wait. Tell people where it's going to be, how they can sign up or show up or whatever it is, so we could get as many people as possible out there.
We want as many people as possible. All the information is on the website, metabolicrevolution.org. The location is the Sylvan National Theater, which is outside. It's on the grounds of the Washington Monument. And we're going to start at 3 p.m. And it's going to be all these speakers. We're going to have a little parade. I'm calling it the Parade of Proof, where people who have healed are going to come up and basically share their, have a moment in the spotlight to say what they've healed. It's not going to be lectures. It's just going to be a celebration. People can carry signs of their before pictures. People can carry signs of their slogans. You've got yours now. You just wrote it down.
Yeah, you could be strict or you could be sick.
Yeah. I mean, you make a big sign that says that and you carry it. And we hope that there'll be a lot of media there covering this. And, we are going to demand change. It's important now with, it's complicated now because we're before a presidential election, but it's also a moment for us to say, hey, whoever is president, we're here. We're complaining. We're serious about what we want to change and how medicine is and how we're treated. Like everything we're doing is not working. So let's do it differently.
Oh,
And we're not.
just wait. I'm thinking of things I could do now. We're going to be in Washington, and as I've always said, or everyone says this, Washington is Hollywood for ugly people. So I'm going to roll up my sleeves. How politicians like to roll up their sleeves like they're getting ready to do something? I'm going to roll up my sleeves while I'm doing the talk. And we got to get a baby. I need to kiss a baby. Yeah. Can we get a baby?
I'm not going to be responsible for that.
All right, I'm going to see if I can work up a baby. And yeah, someone's got to have a baby, right? Listen, if you're listening and you're going to the Metabolic Revolution in Washington, D.C., it's going to be in the Sylvan Mall. Can you bring a baby by so I can kiss your baby? And look, if multiple people have babies, bring them by. And I'm going to roll up my sleeves and kiss your baby. And I'm going to hold up my sign. Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be great.
Okay, so Vinny's going to be kissing babies, and I am going to be demanding change. And I really hope that people come out and do it, because this is what a movement is all about. If people unite, we have the power. You can't sell us garbage if we don't buy it. So this is our moment to come together and unite. All the people who care about metabolic health and who care about real food and who care about exercise. I want the fitness people to come. I haven't had success in reaching a lot of them, but maybe they're listening to this now. So I think, we're using a fork as a logo, but you can take the same logo with the fist and put a barbell in it. Make it. Everybody's invited to make this their thing. Like, this is not. It's not mine. It's your revolution. It's the people's revolution, and it's our right to health. It's a really, really crucial, essential thing, because when you take away our health, you take away everything. Right? We can't do anything if we're sick.
Yeah, look, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about the whole thing. Wow, this is going to be good, folks. I can't wait to see you there. We're going to put this show up immediately so you guys can find it, figure out, make plans, drive in, fly in. There's trains up and down the East Coast. Get on a train. Trains are fun. Go do it. I can't wait to see you guys there. Jessica, hang on. You have to hang on anyway. We have to talk off the air. And we have to wait for this to upload. Folks, you know what to do. We all go shopping on Amazon. Before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com, click through the banner. It puts coal on the fire, gets my train down the track. I think if you put in VinnieTortorich.com/row, ROWE, if you heard me on the Micro podcast, we still have the VIP group open for you guys. Anyone that puts your name in, you can get into the VIP group right now while it's still open. So go check it out, VinnieTortorich.com/row. You could go to metabolicrevolution.org and see what's going on there. I'm hoping that this is not a one and done event. Let's ask Jessica. Jess, if this works, we're going to do it again next year, right?
We're going to do it all the time, wherever we can. And I want to tell you that we have incredible volunteers, and some of them are from your group, and they are making this possible. Like, we don't have money. We don't have infrastructure. This is volunteers coming together and doing beautiful, amazing work. None of us know each other, and we're just teaming up and working. I could not be more delighted. And I'm so touched by what people are doing to make this happen. So I'm so grateful to all these volunteers.
Well, I'm excited about it. This kind of feels like Woodstock in a weird sort of way. Doesn't it?
Yes, we are going.
Too young to remember the original Woodstock and what it meant and all of that.
Yeah, well, actually, I heard a rumor that Westman and Nina are planning a musical performance. So
really,
so if you can sing, you can join. I mean, we are coming out both to make our statement, but to have a good time. So.
Wow. I feel like I always wanted to be a hippie when I was a kid. Now this is it. I'm going to be kissing babies, roll up my sleeves. You could be sick or you could be strict. I don't know which way I'm going to say it yet. Strict or sick and strict. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to be there listening to Nina and Westman trying to sing. Folks, go check it out. This is coming up on the 13th. It's a Sunday. You got the time off. Don't pretend you don't. This song came to mind because of what we were just talking about. So on behalf of Jessica Apple, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living, and let's do it with one Miss Joni Mitchell.